Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Trigger Warning Radio. I am your host, the Kaiju Conservative, fresh from depositing my check that I received from the sinister international gay cabal of werejews for shilling and promoting disinformation on their behalf. Now, yesterday, ladies and gentlemen, I posted a video about Sheriff Israel and how, you know, Scott Peterson is a coward, but Sheriff Israel is a bigger coward. Generated a bit of discussion, and there was one commenter on my BitChute channel that brought up an interesting point. Patriotic Poet on BitChute, he basically gave the opinion that he thinks these shootings might be by design. And the reasoning behind that was if you look at all of these mass shootings that happen in this country, most of the mass shooters have an insane number of warning signs about them. I mean, you know, look at Parkland, look at all the warning signs that Nicholas Cruz had. You know, San Bernardino, there were a lot of warning signs in that mass shooting. The VA tech shooter, he had a lot of warning signs as well, going all the way back to Columbine. You know, the shooters back then, they had a lot of warning signs, and he brought up the fact that all of these, you know, warning signs, all of these red flags, all these complaints are ignored or outright covered up. And these people are able to buy guns, and they're able to go out and do their evil deeds. And I'm going to admit, folks, this is something that I've thought about myself, ever since Parkland happened. It's very easy, to come to that conclusion, especially with Parkland, especially when you look at all of the warning signs and the red flags. And I mean, law enforcement was called to Nicholas Cruz, his residence, 39 times, ladies and gentlemen. 39 times for various threats, for acts of violence, for a whole host of reasons. And most of that happened before his mother died. There was a lot after that as well in his adoptive home, but most of that happened before his mother died. So this was very clearly a kid that was filled with rage, just at everything and everybody, just lashing out against the world. And, you know, you add on to that the fact that he was seen by a psychologist, by a police psychologist who said he was fine. He was not a danger to himself or others. You know, this of course made it so he was able to buy a gun. You know, he was able to purchase that AR-15. He was able to buy a shotgun as well from Dick's Sporting Goods. He didn't use the shotgun at the shooting, but he definitely used that AR-15. And then you add on to that the fact that the last time the cops were called out, it's because, you know, he was holding a gun to somebody's head and threatening to kill them. Then you had the FBI tips, 2 tips from the FBI, one of which in January basically straight up said that this kid is going to shoot up a school. He's going to walk into a school and he's going to shoot everybody. I mean, the FBI was point blank told what he's going to do, and they ignored it. I guess they were too busy investigating Russia. But that's neither here nor there. So you have all of these warning signs being missed or ignored or covered up. And you have Nicholas Cruz, who's able to buy guns legally. He's able to go into a school and he's able to kill 17 people. So what might be the reasoning to allow something like that to happen? Well, Patriotic Poet, he gives the reasoning as being, this is the new way for the left to attack the Second Amendment. And it's a hard position to argue against, really. I mean, you look at all of these mass shootings, you know, from Parkland to Vegas to everything in between. You know, pretty much instantly, as soon as it's reported, you have the left coming out and demanding gun control, demanding gun bans, gun confiscation. You have states passing insane gun control laws, such as Florida with the law that Rick Scott signed into law last week after the Parkland shooting. Looking at Sandy Hook, you have states like New York passing insanely restrictive gun laws that were so poorly written they ended up rendering police firearms illegal. So taking all of that and putting all of that together, it does look like there may be a concerted effort to allow these mass shootings to take place in order to make the case for banning guns and confiscating guns from the populace. And this is something that we've seen using a conspiracy to control a narrative and to create a narrative. This is something that we've seen from the Obama administration. If you remember Fast and Furious, Fast and Furious was essentially a gun running operation by the Obama administration and the Eric Holder Department of Justice, where they were running guns to Mexican cartels in order to inflate statistics artificially, in order to make people think that the cartels are getting all of their guns from America, and oh my God, we have to ban guns in the United States because look what we are doing to Mexico. Of course, it backfired and blew up in their faces when a Border Patrol agent was killed with one of those guns. But it goes to show that something this nefarious can happen with government. I will admit government using mass shootings as a tool to advance a narrative of more control. That right there is about as nefarious as it can get, because that right there would show just the utter contempt that the government has, and the left in general has for human life, that they would sacrifice innocent people, that they would sacrifice children in order to advance their narrative. Of course, it's not surprising that the left would do that. The only thing about, we know they love using kids to advance their narratives all the time. The only thing that would be shocking about something like that is the depth of evil that something like that would show. Now, I think, what do I think about this theory? It's a tough theory to argue against. It's a really tough theory to argue against. It makes sense, and I know there's going to be people out there that will be big proponents. Say that 5 times fast. That'll be big proponents of this theory. Again, it's tough to argue against, but I think the main argument against something like this, this is not a theory that I subscribe to, by the way. And I told Patriotic Poet this, and when I replied to him, this is not a theory that I subscribe to, and I think the main argument against it is just the sheer level of complexity that it would entail. I mean, think about it. This means that all of those 39 calls throughout the years were purposely ignored by multiple law enforcement agencies, multiple law enforcement officers, who really have nothing in common and may even disagree politically. The only thing that would be uniting them would be the fact that they dealt with Nicholas Cruz and that they worked for the same department. And something that complex, that kind of argues against it. It implies that number one, it implies that the government has the capability to identify mass shooters. I don't think they do yet. I think that's probably coming, but I don't think they have that capability yet. Of course, if they did have that capability, there is a strong possibility that they just wouldn't tell us about that, because we all know how transparent the government is, right, guys? I mean, how long has it been, and we still don't know why the Las Vegas mass shooting happened? Anyway, but I think the sheer complexity argues against it. I think we'll go with Occam's razor in this, or at least I will go with Occam's razor in this, and in that the simplest explanation is most likely true. The simplest explanation for why Parkland happened, I think, is twofold. Number one, it is the fact that money played a big part in this. We know that the Obama administration had a policy to where it would give school districts and counties money if they could show that they had fewer, that they had a decreasing amount of arrests. And the goal for that, of course, was to prevent minority boys from being incarcerated. And what's the easiest way to show that you've had a decline in crime and to get some of that sweet, sweet government money? Not arrest people for committing crimes, just sweep them under the rug. So that explains why Nicholas Cruz was able to have the cops called on him 39 times for various violent offenses and threats, and have absolutely nothing happen to him. It also explains why a police psychologist stated that he was no danger to himself or others when he very clearly was. This was a part of an effort to cash in on government money. The fact that it led to a mass shooting is probably just a very, very sad coincidence. The other thing, ladies and gentlemen, that I think can go towards explaining why Parkland happened is just sheer government incompetence. I mean, nothing about the Nicholas Cruz case indicates that this was professionally handled in any way, shape, or form. Even the shit show that was the shooting itself, where you had sheriff's deputies essentially going against national guidelines and refusing to enter the building to confront the shooter. That right there does not speak to professional conduct in any of this, ladies and gentlemen. The fact that they covered up or ignored the signs in this case, I think is a lot of it is due to sheer incompetence. And that explains the FBI too, and why the FBI didn't do anything with the tips that they received. I mean, think about how many things that the FBI has been told about, and warned about, and they've done nothing with. I mean, also mass shootings, terror attacks, the Boston bombers. Remember, the Russians warned the FBI about the Boston bombers, and the FBI did nothing with that information. I think that just speaks to institutional incompetence in that organization, as well as the local law enforcement organizations in Parkland as well. And I think that's a much simpler explanation. And it's a much better explanation. I think it's definitely an interesting question that he asked. It's a question that we need to ask, and we need to look at. And the fact that we have to do that we have to ask a question like this it just shows how far our society has fallen. But ultimately, though, I think as more comes out about Parkland, I think we're going to find it was a combination of government greed and leftist greed and politics and sheer incompetence. I think that is what the evidence will show. Hey folks, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Both of those things help me out quite a bit. We're sitting at 330 subscribers right now. I think we can get more. What do you think about why the Parkland shooting happened, ladies and gentlemen? Do you think I'm wrong? If you do, leave a comment below. Change my mind. Show me the evidence. We'll see what we come up with. Once again, thanks so much for listening, and I will see you all next time.